Jackie.
Afternoon, how are you, Shepherd?
I'm good. Finally, you have managed to come on to the platform to discuss about SMEs now.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks very much for affording us this opportunity. Jackie,
All right.
Jackie, a lot of economies rely on SMEs sector, and Zimbabwe is no exception.
Indeed.
How critical is the SMEs sector towards the economic growth of a nation?
Shepherd, I cannot overemphasize the importance of SMEs in any economy, be it in the developed or the developing economies. SMEs account for about 90% of the business population, 60 to 70% of the employment statistics, and also 55% of GDP, that is in developed countries. So as you can see, if SMEs are that important in economies which are already developed, their importance cannot be overemphasized in an economy of such a size, because they contribute more towards the economy than the bigger entities. If you look at Zimbabwe in particular, you discover that because of the harsh economic conditions which have been prevailing for a very long time in Zimbabwe, it has resulted in major companies, big entities divesting from Zimbabwe because they don't want to associate with the risk. But because SMEs are usually locally owned, you find that these people are people who have no other place to go, and therefore they'll continue, they are resilient, they'll continue trying to make it work in the economy under the harsh economic conditions that are prevailing. So there is need to really pay particular attention to SMEs in their performance in order to stimulate their growth, in order to encourage innovation, in order to help them access wider markets so that they contribute more to the GDP of the nation.
Jackie, where can SMEs access working capital? Because working capital has always been an issue for most SMEs. Where can they access working capital?
You know, the issue of access to capital is not just one which is peculiar to Zimbabwe or for Zimbabwean SMEs. It's one that is a problem or a challenge for SMEs across the globe. This is mainly because of the way that SMEs operate. They are not formal in the way that their financial records, even financial inclusion is an issue for them. There is no record of their financial transactions. Maybe say for the past 2 years where cash has been a problem in Zimbabwe, which has resulted in many people trying now to use formal means banking, resorting to banking or mobile banking. Before that, you find that SMEs, they do not keep their track records of their finances. They do not have access to collateral. So it becomes difficult for them to approach formal banking systems where they require such information. They want to know your banking history. They want to have a sight of your financial performance, your financial records. And you find that SMEs do not have all that, either because of lack of knowledge, lack of information, lack of training on how to properly keep your books of accounts so that a banker is able to make head or tail of where your business is going so that they can give you access to funding. That's one. The other thing is that because of their size, sometimes it's difficult to go and get capital or loans from the bank because it's a small entity and they do not have that capacity to be operating in such a way that they'll be able to repay their whatever loan they get. So the solution to that would be for government maybe to intervene and not, I'm against a system where you're just calling business people to get money and no one ever accounts for that money. No one ever chases it. No one ever looks at the businesses, whether they have grown as a result of access to finance. And you find that in some instances where government has intervened before to promote small businesses, it's subject to abuse by the operators of the SMEs themselves. This is because there's no adequate training which accompanies the advance of capital. So for me, it's not just an issue of dishing out money to small businesses like confetti, but it's rather about equipping them to operate at their optimum so that when they get access to those funds, they're able to invest or inject the money into the business in order for the business to grow its operations and to improve its performance and improve its output, grow its market. But in the absence of all those factors, just giving out money is not the solution for SMEs.
Jackie, you seem to have already gotten to my next two questions. I was going to ask you initially to say, are African governments and the Zimbabwean government in particular, have they done enough to support SMEs? And the second one was going to focus on what sort of training and development needs that the SME sector require.
I don't think African governments are too focused on equipping SMEs and supporting SMEs. The focus, especially for our government, what I've seen, I've looked at the TSP, I did not see any particular mention of SMEs or any particular attention to be given to SMEs to support them and prop them up under the transitional stabilization program. And Africa as a region, I don't think it is doing enough. You see, there are organizations like OECD, they are there to equip SMEs and to look particularly at the diversity of SMEs and what they require in their diversity in order to grow and in order to contribute more to the GDP. But when you look at African countries, I think our focus is on how do we create conditions that are suitable for us to get foreign direct investment. But this is where the problem lies, because FDI is under so much demand from so many countries. And like I said earlier, that you get big companies, they end up divesting. The risk is too much. They end up leaving because they have many options. They have many other places to take their money. But if you look at SMEs, because of their nimble character and because they are owned by local indigenous people, there is usually no chance or limited chance of them fleeing with their money, fleeing with their capital. They do their best to make it work. And you find that Zimbabwe, in spite of all the harsh economic conditions, it has been sustained. Its economy has been sustained mainly by the small to medium enterprises up to where we are now. So I think it would be prudent for the government to do more to promote and to support SMEs. And it's not necessarily about injecting funds, like I've said earlier, but it's about equipping with knowledge. There's issues to do with ICT, there's issues to do with innovation, just being creative. There's issues to do with patterns, creativity, and how do you get your idea to become sound in money, and how do you protect that once you've produced or you've come up with a new product. There are so many ways in which our SMEs are lagging behind in terms of knowledge, in terms of training, in terms of innovation. Because for us as a country, sadly, we have created an environment where only rent-seeking behavior, arbitrage, is more profitable than innovation. So it becomes pointless for one to spend so much time trying to be creative and trying to come up with new products and enter and penetrate the market, because it's more paying or it's more profitable to be engaged in non-productive activities, which are rent-seeking activities, which are speculative tendencies, something which is not really contributing anything meaningful to the economy, but it's just waking up one day and say, oh wait, you're making your profit. And the environment that is there, it dissuades people from trying to be innovative, from trying to be creative and coming up with new products, and thus developing SMEs so that they can grow. Without creating new products, without innovation, we cannot say we have SMEs. We cannot say that SMEs have got an opportunity to grow because they have nothing to offer. And as a country, we need to come up with ways where we can maybe pool the resources of SMEs together, get organizations which can train and equip SMEs so that they can come up with new products, which are not just new products, but new products which can be competitive on the international market. Because, mind you, we're living in a global village. It's people get access to products from other countries. So when you come up with your product as an SME, it has to be competitive. It has to be of standard which will be acceptable in or compared to goods from other countries. So these are the issues that are pertinent for our SMEs if we are going to get them to grow. And we also have to equip them to access external markets. It's not just about creating products for local consumption, but creating products that are able to penetrate the global market. And that is how you then get the country earning foreign currency. So you see how crucial it is for our government to support the growth of SMEs.
Jackie, let's now move on to the private sector as well as banks. Do you think banks have done enough? Is there anything more that the banks can do as well as the private sector to grow and enhance the SME sector?
Like I said, the banking sector, those are old formal systems. They work with formal structures. And if you look at the nature of SMEs, they are informal operations. So without those track records for banks, these are, they're also operating at a profit. It's not like charity. So they would not give people money who are not credit worthy. People whom they have not verified will be able to pay back whatever money in advance. For me, I underwriting some of these debts, which would then be advanced to the SMEs, working hand in hand with the private sector to impart knowledge, offer training to SMEs so that they are able then to qualify for bank loans. They are able then to operate their businesses in such a way that will enable them to be able to repay whatever the loans they've been advanced. Because the tendency and the culture, sadly, that has entrenched itself in our country is that there's money which is being given. There's get with absolutely no intention to pay back. And that is an attitude which needs to be worked on. That's an attitude which needs to change, but also needs lots of monitoring. So if banks are going to be giving SMEs money, it just can't be given. They have to qualify. They have to show that they have their record back, whatever is, it's pointless.
Jackie, where do you see the SMEs sector in the next 5 to 10 years?
Because there is no policy thrust which is looking at promoting SMEs. I've made reference to OECD. It's an organization which really has so much interest in SMEs, their performance, their growth issues, their challenges, and also the opportunities that are available for SMEs. So if you have no, and I would say that when we talk about the policy thrust, it's cutting across probably several ministries. I know we have one ministry which is supposed to be looking at SMEs, but it cuts across the board because issues that affect SMEs, they range from tax issues, company registration issues, issues to do with how easy is it for a small to medium enterprise to be awarded government tenders, because government is the biggest consumer, is supposed to promote SMEs. How easy is it for an SME to qualify? What are the conditions? Taxation. import laws, all those regulations. So it cuts across several sectors, and it would require then government to take a holistic approach to look at the issues that are hindering the performance of SMEs and try and address them in a policy framework which is dedicated to SMEs, because SMEs are contributing about 70% of the economic activity in this country. So there is need to acknowledge that and to acknowledge their importance, and to then have a deliberate thrust, a deliberate drive to ensure that SMEs grow, to ensure that SMEs get to be innovative, get to take advantage of new technology in order to create new products that will compete on the international market and see Zimbabwe producing once again for the export market. This is the only way we can get our country to be productive, promoting the growth of SMEs. Because if you look at the idea that we want to get FDI to come here, like I said, look at the crisis which is going on right now, the COVID-19. It's going to get people and economies focusing on themselves. What we used to have access to, we may no longer have access to. We and the focus for most Zimbabwean people has been to import for consumption and not produce anything locally. So there's no production which is going on. It's just you go and buy from Dubai, you go and buy from China, and you come and you resell. That's your way of business. But we need to think outside that, especially post-COVID. We need to think of ways where we're going to say we are relying on our own capacity, our own resources. We are producing. So it's going to take a whole lot of effort, deliberate effort. And if there is no change in the policy dynamics, I'm afraid we are not going to see much change in the SME sector. They are not going to grow into bigger entities. Their products are not going to be able to penetrate the international markets. And we are not even going to be able to substitute imports through local production if there is no intervention from the policymakers to try and create an environment which is conducive for SMEs to perform and for SMEs to grow.
Jackie, thanks very much. The last time we spoke about the impact of COVID-19 on the SMEs. Now, from your own observation, do you think SMEs are going to survive beyond COVID-19? But not only that, do you think maybe this is the time now that the government should look at maybe relaxing some of the lockdown measures?
Indeed, I think I said this even before the lockdown, that because of the nature of our economic activity in this country, it's informal mostly, and these are micro, small, and medium entities. They do not have significant amounts of savings set aside for such an eventuality. Therefore, I would suggest that government needs to cushion SMEs from the impact of COVID-19 in one way or another. But coming back to your question where you're saying, will SMEs be able to survive beyond COVID-19? Yes, they will be able to survive. SMEs, by their nature, they're small. Yes, they feel the impact of policy change much more harder than their larger counterparts, but they are also able to adapt quickly because of their nimble size. So I see SMEs emerging even after this. They quickly adapt somehow. And if you look at Zimbabwean SMEs in particular, you find that they've been exposed to so much policy inconsistencies for the past, I don't know how many years, where one day you wake up and all your savings have been wiped off because we no longer have Zim dollar. And the other day you wake up and all your savings have been wiped off again because you no longer have US dollar. I think SMEs will emerge. I think they will emerge from this, but they will need a helping hand for them to grow and for them to realize their full potential and contribute more to the GDP of the nation.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Maybe my last question then would focus on what advice, what words would you have for the SME sector and for the government going forward?
For the SMEs, I would say it's good. Sometimes, there are so many people replicating the same thing in town. Once someone has an idea, there are so many people replicating, but that is not conducive for growth. It's only going to create competition. Sometimes I think it's best for our SMEs to work beyond personalities and competition and whatever, and pool their resources together so that they can grow or operate a bigger entity and take advantage of the economies of scale to take their costs down and have their products more competitive on the market. That's one. Two, they should invest in training and formalization of their operations, because when you approach a bank, it's not just about you having a good idea and then a bank is going to give you money, but you have to show that your operations are formal, that your records are good, that the prospects of the bank recovering its money is good. And that's how you get to grow, because without access to capital, without access to loans from the bank, you are not able to invest in your business so that it grows at the speed that will be ideal. You may take 20, 30 years to grow if you are relying on your own savings. But if you are relying on capital from the bank, it may take you a shorter time. So invest in training, invest in formalizing your operations so that you also qualify for access to loans. And for the government, I would say it is quite crucial for government to pay particular attention to SMEs. They will ignore SMEs at their own peril. Yes, they want to focus on FDI. They want to focus on getting money which is outside to come here. But the competition for that money is huge. And conditions attached to that money are also another issue. So it's best to also look at how we can get our SMEs to operate at their best, to produce more, and to grow and contribute more to the GDP of the country.
Jackie, thank you very much for coming onto the platform. We look forward to have you again. Next time we need you to utilize your background as a lawyer. We want to talk to SMEs in terms of how best they can legalize, and then maybe talk about issues to do with patents, because a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of SMEs have ended up losing because they would not have registered their patents internationally. So for now, thank you very much for this.
All right, thank you. Next time I'll come wearing the lawyer hat.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, our viewers, thank you very much for being with us. That was Jackie. She is an entrepreneur, a lawyer, and she is very passionate about SMEs development. Please, may you continue to subscribe and watch out for our next shows. Thank you once again, Jackie.
Thanks.
Okay.